Now tonight on our front, we delve into the latest developments surrounding SSNIT's decision to divest 60% stake in its hotel assets. The chairperson of the SSNIT board, Elizabeth Ohene, has broken her silence, addressing the accusations and justifying the deal. We will discuss her stance and justifications, exploring her claim that the process was transparent and above board. Joining the conversation in studio is Austin Gamey. He's an expert when it comes to labor law. But more importantly, the man sat on the committee that put together the current state of SSNIT. So we should be able to learn a lot from him. And you will know that he's also a former minister in charge of labor. We also provided some insights on the legal framework and implications of the board's decisions. Additionally, we'll hear from an assistant professor of finance at the University of Sheffield, who is really penned down a detailed response critiquing Elizabeth Ohene's defense of the deal. We would return after this break for an in-depth analysis and lively debate on this most important matter. This is UPFront. Welcome back to UPFront. As I did say, in studio with me is a former labor minister and also a man that really knows the ins and outs of how SSNIT is currently constituted, since he sat on that committee that actually put together the current state of SSNIT and its act. Also joining me in studio is a response I'm sure by now you have seen from an assistant professor of the University of Sheffield in the finance department, Dr. Sharif Mahmood Khalid, and he's been responding paragraph by paragraph to what the board chair of SSNIT had put out there. If you're just hearing this for the first time, the board chair of SSNIT, Elizabeth Ohene, has penned some very details of what happened with the SSNIT deal when it comes to divesting some 60% of its stake in these hotels. The clear indication she has given is that the deal was above board. There's nothing wrong with it. She is willing to stand prosecution of any form, and she is willing to see it through. Those are the most important issues that we should be exploring on the show tonight. Gentlemen, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Let me start with you, Mr. Gamey. First, I want to know your initial thoughts on the claim by the current board chair, Elizabeth Ohene, that the process to select Rock City as the preferred bidder was transparent and met all regulatory requirements.
Thank you. Well, I appreciate her commitment to the appointment offered her as chairperson to the SSNIT board, and so she has to defend whatever work that they have done. That notwithstanding, she lost track of the fact that SSNIT is a very special purpose vehicle put together as a trust to hold in trust money that does not belong to the president of Ghana and the government of Ghana, who even put her there in the first place. So the honesty in this matter is that they have abused the trust that has been given to them to enable them hold in trust the monies that have been accrued and left in their care to either invest and ensure the return on the investments are really beneficial for the intended purpose why they were set up in the first place. So it's a complete disrespect for the owners of the money that is in their trust, not government, not the board, but the money belongs to the contributors who contributed through their sweat. You know, the fact is this. SSNIT money is money belonging to working people, and this money should have been given to him, the worker, to you, the worker, to invest for your future. But we want to put it together into one insurance pool so that the volume, when it is used and used well, the benefit will be there for everybody. Because the possibility of you alone misusing the money in one way or the other cannot be ruled out. Hence this. So I'm highly, highly disappointed, not only in her, but all those who have contributed into making this a very difficult task for all of us to be delving into now. So yes, my initial reaction, if you like, for the first time I'm using the word reaction, is that she has not done well. And we are not going to take it for granted at all.
Now, you had previously asked that they should resign or that board should be dissolved. Mindful of her explanation now, that everything they did was above board. Everything they did was in tandem with the regulations and the laws that they operate within. Everything they did, they believe was by the book. Do you still maintain that they should go?
Of course. And let me make it clearer. We, the working people of Ghana, have mouthpiece, organized labor. They are the people we look up to so long as the workings of the board and SSNIT is concerned. And therefore, we are going to pass through them to inform the authorities that are in this country, then that is the government of Ghana. They should take them back. They put them there, they should take them back. They shouldn't compel us to demand the passage of a new law regarding SSNIT in particular in the next few minutes. They shouldn't force us to do that. If they compel us, we will do that. Just that.
Now, okay, so that's by way of introductory comments, but we'll be delving into some of the issues that's actually being dealt with here. Dr. Khalid, you have written a detailed response to Elizabeth Ohin's justification of the SSNIT Hotel deal.
Yeah.
What are the, and you raised them,
Yep,
primary ethical and governance issues you have with the process as she described?
Well, the point is, when I saw her article, I cringed because I said, this is coming from the board chair of SSNIT, who's got both fiduciary and stewardship responsibility. So as a corporate governance person or practitioner, one thing that struck me was that I would like to see a log of their trainings as board, because it looks like she doesn't understand her role from how she categorized and state all of this. You have an appointing authority who is the president, and you tend to say you don't respond to the president because a petition was given to a president, right? That's quite worrying to come from a board chair.
I think what she's saying is that there's no evidence as SSNIT to back a claim that every single decision they make, they have to run it by the president.
So now let the president determine in terms of the petition that was given. It's not in her place to say.
Okay.
Right. So that's why I say she needed to know her responsibility and her role. But to even start with this, to start a comparison by, I think she's got quite an obsession with former President Rawlings. Drawing in when military leaders...
As in the front page
in the front page part was shot and likening it to the I Am Smith or Rhodesia and all of that. I thought that was disrespectful to our history, and it had no correlation whatsoever to the blood, sweat, and tears of pensioners. We are talking about people's money, not your money. Okay. Right? And you look at this, we ask fundamental questions. Now you have a minister of state. If she says a due diligence has been done, Brian Achampon, nothing against him, we are going through the process. We are not personifying anything here. He's been a serving minister of state, right? As security, national security, before coming in. He might have had an asset declaration form. To go through such an interrogation of a bit coming from a sitting minister who you want devoid of any insider trading or political dealings, you have to have gone or asked for his asset declaration form to see what is actually happening. I say, look, you talk about Rock City. They claim it has 600 rooms whatsoever. Let's say there's full occupancy of these 600 rooms from Monday to Friday since its inception. Can it raise the set amount? I'm not saying that's not what it's going to use.
About the 60 million or so.
That is going. Yeah. If part of it is coming from a loan facility, right, is it from a state bank? If it's from the state bank, what were the compliance process? Can we see the loan processes? This is what ethical processes are. And pension funds around the world has been promoting responsible investments because this is people's money. They drive responsible investments. They even drive away from, the Californian pension scheme and the likes of that, even Norwegian. They'd had to diversify from Shell because of fossil fuels. So these are pensions funds playing activist role. Right? When we talk about institutional investors, they play a big role. So if we're having all of this discussion under a climate of haircuts where we had a former CJ picketing at the finance ministry, Princeton, because of this. And we have the board chair who decides to sit in the comfort of either her boardroom or wherever it is to pen such an insult to the good people of Ghana. I think is quite unfortunate.
I thought people asked her to come and explain what happened. Don't you consider what she has put out there as explanation of the processes they went through?
Well, I mean,
and a justification.
Do you want to read snippets of that for the people of Ghana to listen to you on what she says? I mean, for instance, I could read that and just to post it to a few of my responses. She talks about, what do you call this? Party coloration, isn't it?
Yes.
Right? So, in a party coloration, she says that all of this is going. And my response to that, she said, I accept that this being an election year, everything takes a political coloration. And Brian Champon being the owner of Rock City is obviously the main reason, right? The level of what discussion has gone so high. This is unfortunate to come from it, regardless of who was doing this purchase, it would have attracted the same. So to hinge it to political coloration.
I mean, in fairness
to
as
what?
For the dealings at SSNIT,
yes,
she even admits early on in a statement that it always comes under some scrutiny.
No, but
because SSNIT itself has always been, and no, barely a month ago.
You remember
yes, we're having a conversation
when Professor Alabi was board chair, yes, an IT issue.
Yeah, I remember,
right?
Yes.
It came to the radar. Was Alabi a sitting minister?
No, I remember the contract they had for that.
Yes.
Beginning of the 2017 or so. I remember I interrogated those issues.
Yes.
That's for SSNIT, and that was for an OBS system. That's a platform,
Platform, but this pensions are a sensitive issue globally.
Everywhere.
Everywhere. Now, why is SSNIT? Can they give us a justification? And again, there's a historical dimension everyone is missing. Within the bracket, right, or the basket of all of these hotels that have been put together, one stands tall, which is Labadi. Few years ago, Labadi was managed by a South African management consultancy firm called, what's the name? I'm trying to get Legacy Group.
Legacy Group.
Yes, so Legacy Group, at the time, if you even wanted to book a room in Labadi, is .za because they were using a South African domain, right? The Legacy Group left management of this and moved away. So can they tell us, within the period Legacy Group took over, what were the fortunes of Labadi? But today, Legacy has become so attractive that you had a Libyan sovereign fund trying to have a hostile takeover of the Legacy Group that managed Labadi a few years ago. These are the connections we ought to make. Why are we selling this? Why the sale? Why? Is Brian going to perform wonders? Is there a track record of Rock City? Right? And for a startup to even want to put up such a bid, it's quite interesting. Did you see the bids? If you look at the bids, all three companies, right, that were bidding for this, each time, Rock City was either closer to the required targeted amount, that's the required or slightly higher. The rest were far below. And that's clear evidence. Anyone who has done financial transaction and tender bidding is clear evidence of insider trading.
I mean, sorry.
Clear evidence of insider trading. They can come and prove that wrong.
You were nodding to it, but is it not circumstantial? I put in a bid, others put in bids. My own is closer to what they're asking for.
Of all three bids?
I may have just gotten a more competent finance team to do that.
Look, let me confirm what he said a while ago. I slept at Rock City running a program together with the Ghana registered nurses and midwives. So Rock City is a beautiful place. Brian Champon is a Ghanaian. He's a very nice man. But he is the first to know that the issue that is being discussed today is not about a personality issue. It's about the spirit around the whole thing is wrong. And we are talking about specific vehicle, SSNIT, which holds in trust pensions. And we are in this country, our president told us that we have a haircut. So people already have suffered in diverse ways. Only that organized labor insisted that our pension and pension-related funds should not be touched.
Excluded, yeah.
That is the reason why we've been safe. Let's hope that we are even safe. Now, that being said, today, any attempt by whether the board or even the president himself or cabinet or parliament or whoever to touch the pension funds of the people whose sweat contributed in making it what it is, it won't come on today, it won't come on tomorrow. So whatever they have done, to cut a long matter short, they should consider it as null and void.
As in the processes that
everything
she's bent on seeing through.
Yeah. May I repeat it? Everything, including whatever she has written, should be considered as null and void. And it will not be considered. And the organized labor are told in no uncertain terms to take steps, apart from what Samuel Kujeto, Honorable, is pursuing at Shraj. Put it aside. We, as owners of the money, our spokespersons who are sitting there and who said variously that they, in the minutes, can prove that they did not support it, we are telling them we don't support it. And the board cannot roll over us. We are the owners of the money, period.
But general basic company law, the board is most responsible, isn't it?
When it comes to pension, let's be very clear. Pension is a different ball game altogether, all over the world. It took us almost 2.5 to 3 years to write the pension scheme before it was converted into law and establishing the MPRA. And so we do not want any government or any chairman or chairperson and board members to ride rough shoulders over us. That won't happen in this country. Not at this age of ours. We will not allow it. And so they should be told in no uncertain terms that what my sister Elizabeth Ohene has written is a good piece for somebody to read for purposes of academic, exercise and for people to talk about. But in reality, it won't take place today, it won't take place tomorrow, and they should stop it immediately.
I will come back to you because you had hope in the president intervening. You also had hope in the directive by the minister that everybody will comply, which appears not to be getting the kind of response it is getting. But, Dr. Sharif, you started by taking us through the issues you raised consistently with that. Yeah. If you conclude that, you can move on. So please conclude that point.
Yeah, so my point is, if you look at all of what she's just written, it's English. It's not even boardroom language or understanding of pension schemes and what they do.
In fairness, she was writing an article for the public's understanding.
Which is English, and that's quite understandable. So what I'm literally trying to say is that, look, but SSNIT has a certain history that we are all ignoring. You know, these hotels have a cluster of a name they call the Golden Beach Hotels.
Yeah, some of them. Some
of them, right? So at a point in time when you had change in government, as more so starting, grapevine information had it that when they wanted to do away or they wanted to send a senior manager on a gardening leave, they first send you off to go and manage the Golden Beach Hotels because they thought whether you had the skill or not. So literally, we actually even took the steps in running them down. Right? I mean, the Busia Beach resorts, these are glorious. And what we are failing to realize is that there's a sentimental value to all of these things. Go to the albums, right? The albums of Labadi Beach and La Palm Royal and all of these and see people historically, global leaders that have visited these places.
That's where the Queen used to
The Queen used to, yes.
Really?
I grew up knowing it as a Queen's Hotel, you know. So these have a legacy issue, which is so dear to those who understand it. So if we're looking at some of these things, and the best is, but the point also is that what justification as a board chair in terms of her stewardship and fiduciary duty or fiduciary role, that if she sells these hotels or the stakes at X dollars, right, the dollars are going to be invested because that's what pensions are meant to do, to invest it in said pot to bring such a return. This is the justification that, and no one is talking about that. The fixation is on the sale.
But she said this process started way back in 2018.
We don't care when it started. It doesn't matter where it started.
Really?
Yes, it doesn't matter.
Said that you were in this country when we're putting advertisements out.
Yes, so if the advertisement is out, so what?
So why are we now making it look like
so tell us what you use.
Work?
No, what if Rock City buys it today? Yeah. What's the money going to be used for? What will be the return on investment? That is what we all want to do, because when a pensioner goes home, you got to have your lump sum and you have your monthly outgoings, right? So what is the black hole that they are trying to fill? And the sale in particular, what would it do? So they haven't given a clear justification of even why the sale is taking place as far as the Ghanaian public is concerned. And she has dropped the ball as board chair, in my opinion. So if she was to pen anything, right, her justification of the sale, what the proceeds of the sale was going to be used for, the investment, the return on investment, over which period and what was going to be raised. The investment in these hotels were to cushion the pot and to allow growth for it. And mind you, hospitality is a very volatile industry. And for a startup to even come for this kind of stake is problematic, right? So what I say is that you haven't seen the entire transaction, but it's like he's walking into the boardroom as already a majority shareholder. And what does that mean? It defies even pension principles.
How so?
No, because in the pension room, because we have what we call responsible investors, right? And by responsible investments and block investors, what they do is, by virtue of the fact that pension pots are large, right, insurance companies, what have you, what they do is they could go into and invest in a company to have a stake and to have board seating to ensure that they are ethical. Let's say it's an oil and gas company. They want it to go green.
Yeah.
So they go in, right? You know, either we have foot voting or they vote via the board or AGMs and what have you because of their shareholding. Now, this is the stake already he's coming in with. If you compare it,
60%.
Yeah, 60%. Who's going to be the majority shareholder?
Essentially himself.
Himself. Yeah.
Yes, that's the end of it.
And that's the end game. So he's just going to be a rubber stamp of whatever. You don't even have control over anything. So what are we doing?
Is this
to ourselves?
Is this not what Elizabeth Ohin calls an ideological resistance?
And I would come to that. That's quite interesting.
She calls it to the idea of divesting shares in the hotel.
No,
as a strategic investor.
No.
That's the term they use for it.
As a strategic investor, to invest in what?
In the hotels.
Right? No, now she says, probably, let's say the hotels are not productive. Have they shown us the books to show how unproductive they are? Is it a managerial issue or management issue? Is it a supervisory issue? So none of these things have been explored. A consultant has not come in to say that these are the issues if we fix this. But we just assume that it's all financial. Sell it off.
SSNIT shared a story by, I think it's Finder or one of those newspapers, right? SSNIT shared a story by Finder that suggested that when you take out Labadi Beach Hotel, the rest of the way have not been paying dividends. It didn't talk about profit. It said not been paying dividends.
But why do you have to take Labadi Beach Hotel? In business, there's strategy, right? Which is why a company will be selling umbrella and sunglasses, right? When it's the summer, the sunglasses sell, and when it's raining, the umbrellas sell.
Okay.
So if Labadi is doing well and can anchor the rest of the hotels, why are you going to link it?
Look, let me offer you this.
Yes.
This is purely nothing but managerial.
Yeah.
First of all, SSNIT should know that they are workers of the trust, not government. That's number one. Governments today and tomorrow to come should understand that they are not the owners of SSNIT. And they have no business toying with people's sentimental concerns.
But SSNIT is being controlled essentially by government. That board, if you look at its makeup today.
Thank God, this is the end of that game. May I repeat it? Thank God, this is the end of that game. Ghanaians, generally, we are cowards. We are people who don't want to talk about things that pertains to government because, especially when they are aggressive and they are looking for you to either maim you or do something. Not now. From today going, there is a change in this country. Every person that is in any office, call it presidency down to labor, everybody must learn to do what is appropriate. SSNIT is not the personal property of any government. SSNIT is simply a trust holding monies contributed by people into a pension pot to be properly invested into a real meaningful returning income that will enable the people to live a meaningful life tomorrow. Now, that's why we separated the second tier and said that they should now, by a very clear-cut actuarial study we did, they should be able to pay a reasonable lump sum amount of money. If we don't have mismanagement generally in the country, we should be able to harvest a reasonable amount of money to pay even the laborer a reasonable amount of money. We did an actuarial study on it before we came out. And therefore, SSNIT itself will be run profitably to enable them pay monthly allowance to people so that people do not suffer and be picketing around. So please, for heaven's sake, it should be made clear to our sister Elizabeth Ohin is a very nice lady. We all appreciate her role as a journalist, and she grew up to become a legend in this country today. I doff my hat for her. But this one, she should take her hands off it. This is not a political pot for anybody to play with. The polarization that she talked about, I appreciate what she said. I can assure you that SSNIT is not about politics. Let's end it there. Let's take away the partisan politics of it, and let's do politics with it. Politics means to make decisions for and on behalf of people. Yeah. Partisan politics is MPP, NDC, and Afafranto. That one should be put aside. Okay. We are now confronting the issue the way it should be confronted, and we will not allow anybody to mismanage this one. This one, it won't take place.
Now, I'll come to you, but let me ask this question to Mr. Gamey. I mean, you have been a minister of labor before. Is the comment of the board chair that she was persuaded by the decision that the board took in 2018, and she's determined to make it a reality, especially when the current labor minister had asked SSNIT to put the process on hold? Is that fair and justified, especially to the minister?
I wish I were the minister today. You must will...
Because he met labor.
Yes.
Tried to get them to calm down, telling them that the process has been put on hold. In fact, he instructed that be done. At least that's what labor told us, right? I remember when I was in a conversation with you on this, when that meeting was happening. Then subsequently, the board chair tells us that she's bent on seeing it through.
My minister who is there is somebody I hold in high esteem.
Okay.
If you are a minister and there is a board, you have the superintending power over that board. And therefore, he has the right to order the board chair and the board people to appear before him in his office. I would have done that anyway. Therefore, and let them know. Because we must distinguish this clearly. It appears that when the president appoints someone as chair and board members, and they have a superintending ministry, it appears they hold allegiance to the president and not to the minister. That is an error. On top of it, she even said in her write-up that they did not even find it prudent to report to the president, and that they were going through the process.
Yeah.
The process, I'm happy they were trying to go through a process. But during the course of the process, some members of the board said, and who are the spokespersons of organized labor, who are the original owners of the money, told you at this meeting that we don't support the sales. That ends that matter. So whether you report to the minister or you report to the president is neither here nor there. On top of it, I have high regard for the minister, and therefore I was holding him in high esteem. I have high regard for the president. I was holding him in high esteem, that their intervention would end the feuding that is ongoing. If they have intervened and they will not listen to them, we will take the intervention ourselves.
Yes, because I was going to talk about your intervention. You asked for the president to intervene, and not only insist that the deal be broken. In fact, you even extended it to the board being dissolved by the president. But Labour says in their meeting yesterday or so,
yes, yesterday,
the executive president says there's absolutely nothing wrong with the processes and the law that was followed in making sure this deal happens. It appears your trust in the president was misplaced.
Yes, exactly what I just said. The president is listening to us. I can guarantee you that I have done my best by holding him in high esteem. And I doff my hat for him. That is our president, so I must give him the high regards. I said intervene, possibly dissolve the board. They go to the meeting with organized labor who threatened earlier. And you said, well, I don't see anything wrong with it. We are millions of people that have money there. Maybe the president don't have any money there. If he has, fine. But all I want to say is that the money is our money, not government money, not a party politics money. It is the workers' money. And we have our say. Well, he has said what he wants to say. We would instruct organized labor to lead us to make sure we collect our things from them.
The minority members of the board?
Minority. We have a huge voice. Look,
I'm talking about Because organized labor is just 4 officially.
I agree.
There's also a pensions representative. Then there's an employers association representative on that board. But it's a board membership of more than 12, really.
Normally, in Ghana here, we respect chairmen of board and their voice more than the rest of the people.
True. We have heard from the chairperson.
That's the poor governance structure and system that we have in place. You won't see this in Singapore. You won't see it even in Senegal on their pension. We look at Senegal, we look at Chile when we're writing the pension scheme. This is not how they behave. Let me put it.
So you looked at best possible examples.
Yes.
And yet, when it came to implementation, we treated it differently.
Well, I'm not in charge. If I'm in charge, it will be a different story.
Okay.
But let me put it this way. I respect everybody, and I repeat it. I respect everybody, including Elizabeth Ohini and the board members who are there. They have failed us in this regard. Look, this particular issue, if I were to be them, they should have called a special purpose meeting of the owners of the money's representatives from the regions. Let's gather somewhere and let them brief us and let's say, go ahead. We will not be having this feuding.
Would that be realistic?
Yes. It's a sensible thing to do. Just like when they were going to pass the yield levy and there was a resistance. They seemingly, even if it was doggedly, they put it down, went to town hall meetings, and came back and passed it, though forcibly. But let me put it this way. This one is not government money. It's somebody's money that they have contributed and put in charge, and you are holding it in trust. SSNIT workers are themselves contributors as well. That is the end of it. Whether it's the president, whether it's the board, whether they started in 2018 or 2017, it's immaterial. We are telling organized labor, tell them, stop it, or else we will advise ourselves.
I'll come back to you, but Dr. Khalid, you appear to be itching to say something when Mr. Gamey was making the point. Exactly what was your intervention?
No, my intervention was, I mean, she appears very aloof about the process, and yet, because she admitted tacitly that she didn't even pay attention to the activism of the Honorable Samuel Okudzato. In her article, you could read that. But how could a board chair of a pension fund not pay heed to sensitive issues like this? It was even coming from a fly. More so, a member of parliament. She now goes to dress the Public Accounts Committee to say that because no single member of the Public Accounts Committee have come out publicly to say that their deal is wrong, it means that it's okay. Come on. Where is she getting these ideas from? And she's managing our board.
Yeah, but she's saying
funds. And you see, look
is
at
it not
this.
fair to presume?
Look at a very interesting conclusion she has to this. Obviously, a demonstration is more sexy. This Elizabeth Ohini, board chair of SSNIT, our pension pot, writing. Look, obviously, a demonstration is more sexy when it ends at the Jubilee House. But I assure the honourable member for North Tongue, he was out by a long shot. Come on.
What's the difficulty with that?
There's no difficulty.
And
here's my response to that. My response to that is that penning an article from London during your exile days might have been a trailing exercise in criticism, but the current context demands a more responsible approach. Demonstrations might appear appalling to you, but it's the depth of governance and ethical responsibility that truly matters. And I quizzed her by asking if indeed her pen is mightier than the sword, by what position she's taking. We've seen her write
yes, but I mean, the woman says that I'm doing the right thing.
You see,
and that if you want a demonstration, direct it to me and not to the office of the president.
Since when has the board chair been asking that we should direct? What's her capacity?
Because SSNIT is not the presidency. That's what she's saying.
Yeah, so, and what would the executive...
Okay.
Who appointed her? Who appointed her?
That's the point.
She got the role, but even if shareholders appointed her, we wouldn't go after her as board chair.
Because SSNIT is our own property.
Right?
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. You know, pensions function differently. They belong to a different cluster. Pension is a different beast altogether. Right? So, and for all these years, instead of you to giving us an account of your stewardship, you decide to write sexy English.
The issues you are raising, you also mentioned governance issues you thought she should actually take notice of.
Yes.
Which specific governance issues are we talking about?
No, I mean, when I talk about governance issues, more so, okay, well, a board might have, can they even give us a report of the board's own assessment of this transaction? Corporate governance practice, a board will have an audit subcommittee, right? They will have an ethical committee and what have you.
And I'd recruited the transaction
right, the
advisor.
transaction advisor. So based on the board's own assessment, which it must have, based on its position, that's if they're having good corporate practices.
They say they use financial and technical criteria.
Criteria. So what is the criteria? Can they give us a detailed publication of that process?
That's what should have.
You see, when I was teaching ethics and corporate social responsibility 10 years ago at the University of Cape Coast to my MBA MSc students, I used to tell them one thing before this, as though I foresaw this coming. Write to your pension fund and ask what they are doing with your investments. And let them have, they owe you a duty to reply.
As in individuals?
Individually, if they can.
Okay.
And they owe you a duty to reply as to where they are investing these monies and what to. But it looks like we've been giving SSNIT too much room to operate. And that's worrying, and which is why I said, in other jurisdiction, and in any serious jurisdiction, pension funds or pots play responsible investment roles. They play stewardship roles, right? They can even go into companies as, as activist groups to actually ensure that a certain right is done. So in all of SSNIT's investments around, in and around the country, maybe in Goyle and what have you, and look, let's list them out and see which ones are doing well or not doing well. Can we have an appraisal of all of that? Why go after the low-hanging fruits of hotels?
This indication you gave suggests wrongdoing, because insider trading is wrongdoing.
It's wrongdoing.
You suggested that merely because the bits were closer, there appears to have been some monkey business at play.
Every bit. Just look at the bits and look at the numbers, the figures. They are too close to be coincidence if you have dealt with transaction and been involved in the process of tender offerings and all of that.
Even if it's perception.
Okay.
Even if it's perception, everybody will conclude that there is an insider trading. Assuming it is not even true, there is a perception. They were not, excuse my language, they were not smart enough. They took us for granted.
Okay.
And let me be very clear to them. Some of us are AI practitioners. We will not allow this to happen in this country. And from now onwards, all working people, today, the report that have been released, this report that have been released by statistics and are people going to sleep in this country tonight? That we have this horrible, frightening unemployment situation on our hand, and SSNIT, that should be a major support base for job creation, investment. What we wrote, they are not dealing with, 1/3 of it is not being looked at. The pension scheme of Ghana should not run into trouble.
Ray.
Why so? I'll come to you briefly.
Listen, we were very steadfast and painstaking. That's why it took us many years to do it. And we made sure that we did an actuarial study to underpin all the steps we've taken. And the actuarial study revealed that if we separated and put the second tier there and free SSNIT to do proper investment, and we said they are free to even invest about 30% of the money outside. What they have done now, where is like is rightly said, where is the actuarial study done by the financial advisors, the transactional advisors, to guide the board in making this final determination, to the extent that now we have this trouble coming to sit here and instead of talking about employment generation and so forth and so on. Look, they are in error. This is purely an insider trading and should not be allowed to stand. Even if it's perception, they should take it like that. Even if it's negative perception, they should take it like that. They've done the wrong thing, they should stop it, and come next year, if not from now till December, whoever becomes the president of this country, there will have to be clean-cut amendment to our pension system. They will not appoint chairman onto the board again. Not.
Why so?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Because the owners must be the one appointing them. The owners of the money must be the one. They are not the owners. Government is not the owner.
We vote for presidents of this country. If there's one single individual who has the ultimate, what they call it, endorsement of the state, is the people voted for person, which is the president.
I agree. And I'm saying that, and you are listening, and he is listening. Come ending of this year, when we will vote, whether it is Alhaji Baumia, whether it is John, whether it is Alan, is immaterial. Whoever occupies the place. Our pension scheme, they have no right to appoint chairman for the board. For us to come to them to determine what we want done, and they will tell us executive authority, whether they amend the constitution or they don't amend the constitution, Adama will say, Chapi Komo, we will not allow it again. And we'll use proper picketing in this country to determine it. We will not allow it.
I mean, yes,
Ray, I demonstrated first. That's the first ever demonstration in my life.
Okay.
It was on this Senate deal.
Yes, so I think I saw you on
the
TV.
front lines of it. But you see, there's a certain history in this country when it comes to acquisition of all of these things. Today, as we speak, under a certain government, the only race course we had in this country was converted into a 5-star hotels that very few Ghanaians can have access to. So you see, you are struggling.
He's talking about camp.
You're struggling to know which.
Oh, okay, no, yes.
Which race course?
No, but the way you said it, frankly, I was a bit confused. Yes, yes.
Yeah, the only race course we had in this country was converted into a 5-star hotel.
Fine, the hotel is nice.
No, it's not about it being nice. What would a race course have served?
It's one of the key profitable hotels. So you should go and copy from them.
Yeah. And you see, what the challenge, and you know, the interesting bit of all of this is, in the heat of all of that, when the chief activist, right, and call him a whistleblower if you like, the Honorable Okujato Ablakwa, was talking about filing of losses by Rock City and the likes of that. His proprietor, Brian Achampon, who is the sitting minister, came out and was saying that he is donating his Trasaco home. Such a brazen comment. Very insulting. He is donating his Trasaco home to him if he could prove him wrong. But in any case, if he thinks he's wealthy enough and he thinks his Trasaco home is worth anything, he should sell it, add it up to whatever resources he has, go into the international market and bring us a franchise if he wants to promote tourism. He can go and bring a Grand Hyatt or a Crown Plaza in Accra. Nobody would have any problems to do with that.
Break it down. What do you mean by that?
What do I mean by that? I mean, if you need a hotel chain, just as you have in Kempinski. Kempinski belongs to a chain. Okay, that is it. So if he feels that he wants to promote tourism, he should sell his Trasaco home he is promising to Honorable Samuel Okujato Ablakwa, go into the international market and bring us a franchise to promote tourism and leave SSNIT alone.
As in, he should look elsewhere and go
into a market where the forces of demand and supply are, not a crony deal that would be pushed to you.
There appears to be the thinking that, oh no, it's just because he's a minister, that's why the poor are pushing it.
No.
And they are opposed to it.
But the point is, why is he even insistent? Why is he speaking? And what even worries me a great deal as the promise of the Trasaco home betrays a certain managerial skills that he exhibits. Is that the kind of manager we want to put 60% of stakes in? Because it doesn't measure a good temperament.
Is doing well.
It is 4 EI.
Rooms.
Which rooms can they post? Okay, he shouldn't dare anybody with his Trasaco home. He should come and post the profits because he's been challenged. Okay. If he's making profits, he should post them. We would have them. It's not a big deal.
By your transaction advisors, they looked at the competence, both in terms of financial and technical, of Brian Achampon's Rock City, and came to the conclusion that they are capable and competent enough to manage it. Why are we pretending?
No, who are they and where is the detailed report?
Well, I have an RTR request asking the information, but I've not got it.
So let's have it down and we can say, okay, on managerial grounds, Brian has done. I'll give you a classic example, right, of the Legacy Group and how well it's performing. It has a track record of managing executive golf courses.
You're talking about Labadi Beach Hotel.
Yeah, Labadi Beach Hotel, which is previous managers. Yeah. And I told you how well even the Legacy Group had done. So I was even thinking that if such bids were even coming up, the Legacy Group would have been one of the people to put up because
they were interested in La Palm too.
Yes, they were interested in La Palm, and they did a good managerial job.
Honestly, La Palm and all the hotels is managerial matter.
Managerial issues.
That's why Rock City, being managed properly and being arranged the way it's supposed to be, having all the...
So can they show us the evidence of that? That's all we need to see.
But they have showed it to the right people.
And who are the right people?
The transaction advisors.
So the transaction advisors, they have the right to the deal and its transparency than the good people of Ghana and the pensioners contributing
there
to
are
it.
several hotels in
Forgive
Ghana.
me, you're saying you're sure?
There are several hotels in Ghana here, especially in Accra here, in Kumasi. Very nice hotels, being managed by people, and they are making profit. Why SSNIT? There are several.
As in, you can look to anywhere else to go and look for.
But I work for some of them. I work for some of them as consultant, and I can tell you they are very profitable, and they pay their workers reasonably well. They are not in default of paying anything to whoever. They borrowed money to build these hotels, and the amortization period is taking place all the time. Our hotel we are talking about now, let's say Labadi, I slept at Buzwa Hotel. That's where we went and wrote the ADR Act for Ghana, for the practitioners. All I want to say is that the hotel need managerial or competency of people, including SSNIT itself, need a revolution. That is what it is, so that they can manage well. Two of us were sent to go and look into the affairs of SSNIT when we were writing the pension scheme. I've told you here before, I was amazingly surprised to the extent to which SSNIT is being managed. And our fears got heightened. Hence, we took a decision to separate and have the second
various tiers
and the first tier. Because the Makola women who appeared before us, even so-called Makola women that people don't respect, they, by their own class 1 economics, told us that they don't have confidence in them. So they want the second tier so that they can contribute into it.
Okay.
We were compelled by this kind of request.
There's even an eminent risk that we are not looking at. And this is at the ballpark level. Day in, day out, you read in the news, Parliament is having a retreat at Rock City. GRE is having this at Rock City. I'm just giving class examples.
Yes.
So for
it's
all
a nice place.
I'm not saying nobody denies
I went there
that.
Too.
Yeah, nobody denies that.
So
what's the problem?
What I'm just trying to say is that if we possibly even run a lock, right, of occupancy, the highest occupants of Rock City could be government gigs.
Yeah, of course.
Right?
What's wrong with that?
That's a risk in and of itself.
Why?
Well, tomorrow government may change hands, and the same traffic that's going there may not be what it is. So that's why we need to see this report. If any hotel gets that kind of what do you call attention and traffic, it'll do
patronage.
well. And patronage, it'll do well.
Yeah, because customers make it.
So yes.
But I know hotels in Ghana here who send their marketeers to West African countries and other African countries and even Europe to market their hotel, and the traffic comes in.
Okay.
We must give that credit.
So the point is,
again, there was a financial and technical criteria, and Rock City came up tops.
Let's see the report.
We don't have a problem. Me, as far as I'm concerned, if Brian were not to be minister yesterday and today, he was Minister of State before. He became a Minister of Agric. He's a very nice gentleman, and I must applaud him for the investment he did in
other areas. Okay.
I applaud him and I wish him well. But this particular thing, if I were to be the president, the meeting they held with organized labor should not have taken more than 30 minutes.
I mean,
should have said,
which sitting minister, Ray, which sitting minister under any regime has been this brazen in trying to purchase such a transaction or involved in such a transaction? Give me an example.
We need to wrap up this conversation.
Of a sitting minister that has.
I can't recall any. Maybe because you have done the review, perhaps you would have given me the...
that's why
I cannot recall any.
No, but...
mostly they shy away.
You see, there's something
they
called
don't want their business...
Yeah, there's something called ministerial responsibility.
In fact, elsewhere, they don't even want their businesses anywhere near government. In fact,
so
from people they have business.
Yeah, I'm surprised at this. And more so when you've served as a national security minister. This is a national security issue.
Really?
Whether you like it or not, this is a national security issue.
It was a risk they took.
Finally, Austin Gamey, what do we do now? President, board chair, and for the minister, he appears to be out of this conversation because it appears the deal is still going on, regardless of what he said previously. What do we do now?
I can assure you the deal won't come on. That one, it will never happen in this country. We are the owners of the money. We will stop it. It's not the president.
There's been a demonstration. She spoke after the demonstration.
Look, that demonstration was just
a tip of the iceberg.
A tip of the iceberg. They should not compel the people who are the original owners of the money, even if it's one person, even if it's one person, they will not do it. And from today, that deal should be considered cancelled. Let me use English word that people will understand. They should consider the deal cancelled, period. And I have signed it. Case closed.
What gives you this confidence?
We are the owners of the money.
Yeah, but you were there when everything was still ongoing.
No.
I mean, I'm talking about beyond the, oh, it should be. What can be done?
Do you know something? Let me tell you. It should never happen in Ghana here, particularly this time, between now and December. I don't want anybody to be taking any unnecessary action to disturb the peace of the nation and the government. The government should have peace to be able to manage and get out of office. So there'll be no excuse from anybody. But for us to be pressurized that it had been done from 2018, and so it's a fait accompli, Madam Elizabeth Ohene, that is the end of the arrangement. Cancel it at your board level, inform all of us that you have stopped it. Then that is the end of it. If not, we would instruct, not that we are going to tell them, we will instruct organized labor to organize for us to collect the paper and tear it. That's what it is. It won't take place.
Final words.
Ray, due process can be followed or could be followed, right? And things could still be unethical. So we are not saying whether due process has been followed or not, right? It's a bad deal. A certain minister is trying to. It smacks of insider trading. It smacks on an ethical, transaction. So all what we are saying is that they should let these hotels go or bring us the reports that really justify that truly this is what it is. The report is not only for the consumption of the board, it's the consumption of the good people of Ghana. So let's know what it is. What are the problems? If there are a basket of problems, bring them, then we break them down and we can have a real understanding. But again, all what I'm saying is that if he thinks his Trasacco home is worth anything, he should sell it, go onto the international market where there's real demand and supply, and bring us a shame.
Now, assistant professor at the University of Sheffield, Sharif Mahmoud Khalid, you just heard there. But the other man you heard before, Sharif, was a minister in the Labour Ministry. He is an expert when it comes to labor in the Republic of Ghana. But more importantly, the SSNIT you see today was part of his creation. Many thanks to you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining today's edition of UPFront. My name is Raymond Akwa.